Hello. Hello, everyone. I'm Alexandra Bond-Burnett. I am an executive coach. I work with performance and help higher performers really reach their levels. And the way I do that is through communication. So, first of all, if you're watching this live, do say hello, drop your name in the comments so that I can see you. So, I'm just going to open up here so I can see the comments. Say your name, where you're watching from. And if you're watching this on replay, put in a little hashtag replay so I can say hello to you later on. Okay, so today I would like to share with you 3 common behaviors. And I say common, these are the 3 behaviors I see all the time in the most effective communicators out there. Now, first of all, what is effective communication? What does that even mean? We see it all the time. So being really effective when you communicate really means that you mean what you say and you say what you mean in a really short way. And that sounds really obvious, doesn't it? Of course I say what I mean. But I really want to ask you, do you? Because this is one of the biggest things, the biggest problems that hits up, kind of stops us being our most productive, stops us being efficient, stops us from really achieving what we need to achieve from other people. So, for instance, if someone is misunderstanding, why has that happened? Why did they not fulfill their job or complete a target or complete something the way that you needed it to be done or when you needed it to be done? Why did that not happen? So it's always good to look back at the communication and see how we could have been better, what we can do to really steer the situation to a more effective outcome. And when you are effective, when you're communicating, it means that things get done quickly, we save time, we save money, and to be honest, we are a whole lot happier because we're a lot less stressed. And also, we're not creating flare-ups or flare-up or friction moments, as I call them, in our relationships in the workplace. So these are really important to be able to really communicate effectively. So these are the 3 things that I see when I'm working with people that people do really effectively. And this is something that I will always work with people on. Okay. So number 1, I want you to remember is to stay in your lane, but check your mirrors. What does that mean, Alex? Okay. Staying in your lane when it comes to communicating means that you only have control or know so much. There is only so much that you know about the situation, and you can only be in control of what you deliver to the conversation. So if you're trying to have a really effective conversation, this is what you deliver. If you stay in your lane, that means really be aware. What are you bringing to the table? What have you got control over? What can you be aware of? Now, part of this is really based in emotional intelligence. So first of all, it is very much like getting in the car and driving off. First of all, check what's happening. Is there anything flagging up on the dashboard that you should be concerned about? Are you feeling frustrated, anger, impatience? How are those emotions really helping you? What are they? How are they serving you? Because emotions flare up in our brain. They're flagged up. They're triggered by an event or a situation or something that's happened. And we can recognize them quickly, recognize that they're there, and then manage them effectively. So it is really powerful to be able to recognize and then regulate them and go, okay, we can manage that. Turn that light off on the dash. I'm staying in my lane there. Now, when I say check your mirrors, that's slightly different. Checking your mirrors means that if you're in the middle of a conversation or you're having a conversation to be really effective, you need to check on what's going on around you. You need to really have a look at the other person. What is their body language saying? What is their tone of voice saying? Now, here is the really important bit. When you are really checking in with the other person that you're communicating with, be really careful to make sure that your view is not obstructed by your own emotions. A lot of the biggest mistakes, mishaps, and misunderstandings, especially in the world of finance when we're dealing with money and numbers, happens because of tone of voice. And when we get triggered by someone else's tone of voice. Now, tone of voice is something to be really careful of and aware of. We can control ours. We can. The thing is, when we're being unconscious, we can react, and that can be interpreted by other people in a very different way. So this is the thing. And this happens all the time. I'll give you an example. One example is having someone who is in a rush. So say Susie is in a rush. She's running around. She's got to get to her next meeting. She's feeling flustered. Things didn't go well for her that morning. There was traffic on the way to dropping off the kids at school. She realized that she left something behind at home. She is really not feeling at her best. She's feeling flustered. She's feeling bothered. She is not in her best state of mind. So then she goes in and immediately gets asked, where is that document that I asked for yesterday? Could you send it to me? And she goes, yes, in a minute, just snaps. Now that's the kind of thing, that's an emotional led response. It'd be very easy for the manager who's asking to then feel very affronted, feel very threatened and offended by that tone of voice. But if we think about it and switch this round and think, okay, she's having a bad day. Now, Susie could have well been more aware of what's going and how she is affected by being late, by feeling rushed, by being caught out at the last minute. But we all do this. We're human. We're human. So it's about really being aware of what we can control, checking your mirrors and checking in with other people and making sure that you are aware first and foremost of what's going on for you emotionally and checking in what's going on for other people emotionally. So that's number one. That's the number one. And it's a big one. Okay. So number two is to be data focused. Now, if you're working in data analytics or you're working with finance or you're working with any form of managing data information, analytical information, this is going to be a really easy concept for you. However, as you well know, data can really easily be not manufactured, but slightly altered in terms of context. Now, this is also what happens in conversations. So if we're being really effective in our conversations, then we need to stick to the data. And the most effective people that I work with always maintain the data. So basically, this is what we're really wanting to say. What we're really wanting to say is stay in your lane. Stay in your lane, which goes back to number one. But we're also wanting to say, and this is where you go for a blank. Sorry, something's just flagged up on my computer, so I wasn't sure if it was still on. Yeah. So when we're being data led, just stick with what you know is the really, so I think we're still good. Stick with what you know. Okay. So when you stick with what you know, it means you're not passing on assumptions. Again, sounds super obvious, doesn't it? Sounds really clear, really obvious thing to do. But this is what we're after. We're after you to only use the words that you know to be true. Again, if we go back to Susie and that late document, and the manager could go, hey, Susie, where is the document? I needed that yesterday. You're always late with it. You're late with it. What's happening? Now, that is quite subjective. It's a lot of it has opinion and their own personal context and framework on that. However, what do we know about the situation? We know that there was a deadline of the day before, and we know that this document is late. That is what we know. So let's stick with that. How does that change the conversation? Susie, I know that we had agreed a deadline of last night to receive the document. Could I get an update on where we are and what you need to complete it? Makes it a lot less confrontational. It doesn't inspire any type of defensive response. And it means that we can easily stick with the data on what Susie needs to be able to produce it, or what has got in the way, because we don't know. We don't know what's got in the way of not delivering by the agreed time. So that is one way, is stick to what you know. Make sure you are communicating purely with the facts. Okay, be very data-led. That brings me to number 3, be intentional. Be really intentional. So this is, again, super effective people are very clear on what they want to achieve, or what the possible outcomes are of when they communicate. So if they go into a conversation or go into a meeting, go into a situation where they are going to have a conversation for a purpose, then really actually think about what that purpose is going to be. What is the best purpose for you? It's being intentional. So before you go in, I want you to have a think. By the end of this session, what do you want to achieve? What will it feel like to achieve that? What is another outcome that might happen? What will you be happy with when you leave that meeting? What do you need to do to get that? Now, that is when you are steering and you are being intentional throughout the meeting. And that keeps everything that you say, all of your actions, tones, and intentions on a focused trajectory. So these are the 3 behaviors. How can you be really, really efficient and effective when you communicate? Number 1 is to stay in your lane, check your dashboard, what emotions are coming up, and really check in with what's going on around you. Be really active in your listening. Be really focused on what's happening for the other person as well. Number 2 is to stay focused on what you know, on the data. What do you know? Not what you feel, but what do you know? What was agreed, when, and what can you do to move things forward? Okay. And number three is to really make sure you are being intentional. Get really focused on where you would like to be. Now, this might change, but again, it's kind of like putting the coordinates in the GPS. So you really need to just be focused that you might get diverted along the way, but you need to be able to keep yourself on task for what needs to be, what the outcome needs to be from your meeting or presentation or conversation. Okay, guys, I hope that helps. Let me know if you have any questions about any of that. And if you would like any more information, I've written up a document about the 7 mistakes that people make when they're trying to communicate with impact. So if you would like a copy, just put impact in the comments here and I will message you with the document, or you can PM me and I can send it to you that way as well. So just pop it in there and I will speak to you next week. Take care.